everyone, and welcome to DisplayWeek 2020. My name is Brian Berkeley, and as a past president of SID on behalf of both SID and Nanosys, I'm your host for interactive discussions this week as we have conversations with key display industry leaders and influencers. Today's guest is Reza Chaji, who is founder and CEO of VueReal, whose goal is to make nanotechnology scalable and, among other things, holds potential for commercialization of microLED technology. Dr. Chaji is also an adjunct professor at the University of Waterloo. He has past experience at IGNIS Innovation, where he was president and CTO, and he is well known around SID, where he's given many technical talks and where he's been an active participant for many years. Reza, we've known each other for a long time. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for the kind introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. And I guess my first question has to do with the ongoing pandemic. This has got to be the most unusual year ever for SID. And I wonder how you and your family are doing.
It's one of those situations, I guess, is hard to anticipate or predict or be ready for it. So we kind of learn as we go forward, both at the company and family. So our main goal right now at family is the well-being of the family, both mentally and physically. So actually, I was joking with my wife a couple of days ago, is that there's going to be a huge demand for psychologists after this is over. So if the kids are getting to schools, this is something to consider. So if they want to go and new things, yeah, so it's tough, but something that I guess you need to manage day by day. You learn. So we monitor where we are lagging, and we try to kind of balance a little bit toward that to improve it. But yeah, it's tough.
Up in the Ontario, Canada area where you are, is school going to be resuming in fall?
It's tough to say. Actually, we just got an email from schools that they are considering 3 scenarios, and they're getting ready for all 3. So the first one is fully open with social distancing in place. The second one is actually they partially online, partially open, so that the kids get some interaction with their friends, but in a limited and controlled fashion. And the third one is go full on online, depending how fall is going to pan out. So schools are getting ready for all 3 of them, so we'll see.
I guess we all have to be flexible. And then I'm wondering how COVID-19 has affected VueReal and your work in particular.
So at Ontario, they had a list of essential companies, and we were under that list, so we could stay open, but with limited functionality. So we have to make sure the social distancing is place and follow all the rules and regulations. So we kept our clean room open with kind of partial open. So it slowed us down for sure, but one of the advantage, if you call it advantage, it's brutally focused us to do what is really, really essential. So it did have some merit, some help to focus on the keys that we may have not done it otherwise. So, but in general, it did slow us down, and we're trying to now plan around it and recover from that.
Do you have any perspective on how COVID-19 is affecting the display market?
Yeah, I kind of stop predicting consumer because it's hard to say how they're going to behave. We expect something is going to happen. They do completely opposite. But if you look at kind of a general things, because people stay more at home, I'm expecting TV market is actually going to get better. The larger your display market should get better, and the smaller display market should get hit more. But that's, again, a prediction is hard to say, but at home, at least the way we use TV more than we used before. So I'm anticipating that's going to be a trend.
Well, for sure. And it's changed a lot of the usage patterns. A lot of people are not meeting in person, but they're meeting over screens the way you and I are doing right now. I guess it brings up a focus area here, which is one of these hottest areas for displays right now is the micro LED commercialization. and I wonder what you think are the biggest challenges for microLED commercialization, and in particular, the biggest challenges for microLED manufacturing and getting microLED displays to the market.
Yeah. So there are two categories of problem. One is actually is more coming from the competition. So microLED facing strong competition from LCD and OLED. They are doing extremely well in terms of performance, pricing, and all those things. So it's strong competition is one thing that microLED is facing. And the other part, as you mentioned, is more from manufacturing and the technical challenges. So from the technical problems, we are looking at three kind of VueReal focuses on three main ones. One is the throughputs and the yield, and then the scalability. So by throughputs is how fast essentially you can print LEDs into a surface. Right now, LCD and OLED, they are in minutes kind of time frame to make a large TV. So microLED need to be in the same category, which is really challenging. The other one on the yield, when you print millions of LEDs into a surface, yield become a big challenge. So how you're going to address that without increasing the cost significantly. And the third one is scalability. So producing microLED, if you look at the existing capacity of epi wafer in the world, if you use 30 or 50 micron LEDs, you will barely make 5 to 4 million display a year. So in order to be able to make 100 millions, you need to make sure that you can make the LEDs smaller than 10, so that the same amount of capacity, now you can make more pixels, more display. So these are the three areas that we have been focused on at VueReal, and we think essentially they're controlling the mass adoption of microLED.
Is VueReal addressing all of those challenges? And if so, how is VueReal addressing those challenges?
Yeah, they are actually very interconnected, all three of them, because at the moment you pick what type of transfer technology you're going to use, it's going to kind of deal with all three problems. So we have been working on a solution that, first of all, is more printing approach rather than pick and place. We think pick and place is more like typewriting. You may be able to do 10-finger type, but it still is typewriting. So you won't be able to print millions of books. You need to go to a printing process. So at VueReal, we developed a printing process that is very similar to printing attributes you'd be using in papers kind of products. So what we did at VueReal, we developed some sort of cartridge-based microLED that we load into our printers, and then we print from the cartridge directly into the surface. We don't need to pick LEDs. The other advantage of this solution was that we could manage very small LEDs. So we could print smaller than 10 micron LEDs. With pick and place, that's going to be very challenging. It's going to hurt the yield significantly. But here, because we don't pick LEDs, we can hold the LEDs in our cartridge securely. We can print those LEDs also into the surface. And moreover, what we did, we could manage every single LED in the cartridge. We measure them. We actually identify the defects. We map the performance. So we can actually avoid defects going to a display, which increase the yield. So those three things kind of directly and indirectly addressing the scalability, the yield, and the throughput.
You know, it's really exciting, and maybe offline I'd love to even talk with you more about it, because I've always felt that this idea of doing mass transfer, pick and place, as I just work through the numbers, the math, you end up with these phenomenally long fabrication times, and it only gets harder as the resolution keeps going up. But that's very exciting to hear that you guys are working on that. And, coming from, a small company, Nanosys here is a small company, and you guys are getting started. So let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. What have been the hardest things about forming your company?
Yeah, I found the hardest part is forming a team. A cohesive but also complementary team is the biggest challenge. I think ideas, there are tons of great ideas. Also, there are tons of, you always pivot, you can improve your ideas. That part it's good to start, but it's not everything. Ideas at the beginning, especially, they're so fragile, they're so limited that you need a good team to nourish them and to evolve them. So having a good team is one of the biggest challenge, and finding and forming that team and also making sure you take care of them, you manage them, you always keep them engaged. I found is the toughest job in starting a company. If you have a great team, all the other challenge you can overcome, you can solve it, you can get with the support from your team, you can go through it. But if you don't, that's going to be the hardest thing to do.
And you have a lot of history in the display business. So I'm curious why you founded VueReal specifically.
Actually, I jumped between different technology through my career. I used to do a lot of VLSI. I used actually do graphic processor. In 2001, we worked on a processor that was very similar to the cell phone processor now. It was too early. It was another startup company. They call it network processor. It has exactly the same thing, the modem, the graphic processor. It was ARM-based things that we developed. And then somehow accidentally, I ended up in doing display for my PhD. It was a pure accident. But then I fell in love with displays, and I continue working on displays since then. When working in OLED, one thing that I realized was that all display technology, they were limited to be just display. So they are just display and that's it. And the display is the biggest real estate in any modern electronic device. So if you can do more than just display in that surface, it's the key. And so then we came up across this idea of printing millions of devices into a surface and making that surface an active surface. So this was one of a lifetime opportunity, and I said, okay, that's it. We should just go and do this, and that's kind of when things started. Yeah, so this was one in a lifetime opportunity because it had applications beyond just display. We could when you print millions of devices into the surface, those devices could be anything. You could do sensors, LED, actuators, so you can develop medical devices, HMIs, security devices. So it's a new manufacturing platform essentially, and that's kind of was so compelling that I couldn't say no to it, and we had to start this.
It's exciting. I'm speaking to you from here in Silicon Valley, and this area is well known for its technology scene. But here we're also hearing good things about new technology companies in the Toronto area, and also just west of Toronto in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. So please tell us about the startup scene where you live, and including things like access to venture capital and the role of universities. I know you're an adjunct professor at Waterloo. Also the up-and-coming startups in your area, and generally the mentality for taking risk.
Yeah. So I moved to Waterloo in 2004 to do my PhD, and the plan was that after done, we're going to leave and go somewhere else. But we're stuck here. One of the things that we loved about this area, as you said, it's first of all, it's a great place to live. It has all the facility, all the amenity that you need for a nice life, but it's everywhere you want to go, 15, 20 minutes. The city was built in a way that it can, even if it's grow, it can handle traffic. So it's a really good area. So you never feel that you waste time in traffic. So that's the good part of it. And then the second part is resources available. University is one of the key one here. They have great facilities for different types, quantum computing, nanotechnology, larger electronics, great chemistry, computer science, math. So there are a lot of talents and resource, both from the labs and also human resource talents available that you can collaborate or tap into it and develop your ideas. And then beside that, it's actually because of the some of the older kind of or more mature company that developed here, like BlackBerry or Dalsa, those type of companies, there are huge experienced talent also here that help you to scale up the company. At some point, when you kind of passing a certain limit, you need those talent to help you to bring it to the next level. And there is a huge pool of that talent also available here. And that talent is growing because of all the new experience. So all those things makes this area a unique place to grow and to start and grow a company. So that's been the team here, especially in the post-BlackBerry era, if you call it. There are a lot of new startups and a lot of them getting to the scale up. We had actually a couple of unicorns even this year in COVID situation, which is great. And then this kind of makes it a very vibrant, healthy environment. We have very wide range of companies, all the way from kind of AI to network applications to medicals, nanotechnology. So it's a very wide range of companies that are kind of forming here.
Well, it sounds like an exciting scene there for tech incubation, and it's good that, I mean, definitely you guys are on the radar. I want Reza to go back to micro LED displays for a moment, if we can. And I'd just like to get your opinion, what you think are the primary application spaces for micro LED displays.
Mm-hmm. So right now, if you look at the market, the way it's moving is kind of replacing the tile-based applications from packaged LED. Originally, they were going to mini LED, and then the next step to micro LED. So that's trend that is happening right now. And people trying to also use the same approach to make maybe larger size, even TV, consumer TVs. But the application that I think is going to fit micro LED better, and is one of those things that will face less competition, is actually automotive. With the connected car and autonomy and all those things, display become a big part of automotive. LCDs has some performance issues, especially in the very cold or very warm, and then also under very low light conditions. OLED is perfect, but the challenge is reliability and lifetime for high temperature, high brightness environment. Micro LED doesn't have any of those issues. So it's a perfect fit for automotive applications. You get very good reliability, and also you're not dealing with high volume production at the beginning, so it's a perfect fit. The other advantage of micro LEDs for connected car is you can make high resolution transparent displays. It's challenging with other technology. You have to sacrifice resolution for transparency. With micro LED, if you go sub 10 micrometer LEDs, you can make transparent displays with over 60% transparency and still have good resolution. So we just demoed a around 200 PPI display with 60% transparency, which is very good for such a high PPI. So
really, 200 PPI and 60%?
Yes, yeah. Those
wow.
LEDs were 8 microns, so essentially it was not consuming any space. So putting all those together, I feel automotive is the killer app for micro LED. And then
it sounds like AR also. If you can get that kind of transmission, that's super exciting.
Yes, AR right, as well.
The robust environmental requirements for automotive. That's great. I want to ask you kind of a crazy off the wall question, because you've been around the display industry for a little while now, as have I, and I wonder what you think is the biggest challenge facing the display industry, or maybe the biggest mistake that our industry has made.
Mm-hmm. So for me, going from VLSI to display, I can say kind of with higher confidence that display is the toughest component in any electronics. And people, as a user, you don't even see that. You need to have everything that from engineering, from mechanical all the way to optics, electronics, materials, it's crazy complicated piece of technology. And it's one of those things that you feel it should be also the same way valued. But unfortunately, the industry somehow valued that if you compare to other components used in the same, let's say in a smartphone, you look at CPUs or memories, and then display. Display is way more complicated than any of those, but it's actually valued not at the same level. And I feel part of it is because of the industry unnecessary competition between a lot of industry and also lack of collaboration to enhance and create new features to keep the value higher and higher. So if I can, it would invite everybody to be more collaborative and work together to add more features, more value to keep that display at higher value and the right place for its value that it offers.
Well, it's certainly true that displays are one of the most multidisciplinary pieces of electronics that the world is using today. And in many ways, it's driving the development of so many advanced products. Whether you're looking at watches or phones or some of the new and unique automotive applications, those wouldn't even be possible 10, 15 years ago based on the technology at the time. So definitely the industry needs, the consumer electronics industry and other specialty industries need for the displays to continue to advance. So these are some very important points that you're making. I guess I'd like to ask a final question, which is about SID. I'd like your thoughts on how SID as an industry supporting organization can help your young company and can help startups in general.
So I have been attending SID, I think since 2005. That was my first SID, and since then I have been always attending. I think it's one of the unique places that you get exposure to market trend, technology trends. So it's actually a very unique place that SID developed this DisplayWeek. And also the other things that it does is provide exposure to a lot of audience, even for small displays. So those two things is already being done by SID DisplayWeeks, and I hope it continue more and more. The part that they may improve upon is adding kind of maybe more exposure to a smaller company. For example, the iZone is great, maybe kind of keeping it a little bit more exposure, more. So when you look at the iZone, when you go to the exhibition, it's a lonely place at the end with not much flattery features or anything. So maybe a little bit kind of exposing that a bit more and then offering more visibility to that would be great.
Well, it's good advice, and we'll take that back to SID leadership, who I'm sure is watching this video now. And Reza, I just want to thank you so much for being part of this DisplayWeek show. I look forward to us actually being able to see one another in person at the next DisplayWeek, hopefully in 2021. And it's been a pleasure to catch up with you again. Thank you once again, and stay safe out there. And we look forward to seeing great prototypes coming from VueReal.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, it was a great pleasure talking to you. And thanks for the great idea. It's been, I think our audience also enjoy it. And looking forward for sure to see you and others in 2021, hopefully.
Thank you, Reza.
Thank you. Thanks.